Hey, welcome to the Clay News and Views podcast. My name is Josh Allen. Just want to tell you a couple things before we jump into our episode for this week, which is an interview with Dylan Beck from the Clay County Young Democrats. First, I want to remind you, go to clayviews.com and subscribe to our website. It's free. It just helps our stories come right to your inbox. You don't have to go fishing for them or find them on social media. But we do have social media. We are on Facebook, we are on X, and we are on Instagram. So find us there at Clay News and Views. And if you go to the website, there's all sorts of stories there. There's the stories that we've done on PJ Colbert, the Safer Watch glitch that happened this weekend, and then so many others. So go, it's free, subscribe. Secondly, don't forget to become a member of our Facebook group called Clay County Pulse. It is once again free. It is a group where we can ask questions and have hard conversations about things going on in the county without anybody trying to censor those questions. Keep it local, keep it civil, but ask any question you want. Clay County Pulse, find it on Facebook, join it. Last thing I want to let you know is you will notice in this episode during the interview, we had a little bit of technical difficulties with my audio. Dylan's audio was fine, but it's going to sound a little bit less stellar than it normally does in terms of audio, so just bear with it. It's still a good conversation. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Enjoy the interview with Dylan. Welcome to another episode of the Clay News and Views podcast. My name is Josh Allen. Yes, that's my real name. I had it first before either football player. Today, we have a special episode of the podcast, an episode that many people told me would never happen, but haters are going to be haters, and here we are. Today, I am happy to have with me Dylan Beck, who is the president of the Clay County Young Democrats. Say hello, Dylan.
Hey, Josh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, good to talk to you. Dylan and I met at the recent President's Day protests that the Clay County Democrat Party was participating in as part of like a nationwide thing where people were upset with some stuff happening at the national level. And don't be disappointed if you're listening to this, but Dylan and I are not going to talk about any of that because we're here today to talk about the Clay County Young Democrats, Dylan himself, what they're doing and what that means, and just about Clay County in general. So Dylan, first of all, thanks for being on the show. Appreciate you making some time for me. Tell people a little bit about you. Who are you, and how did you get involved with the Democrat Party and the Young Democrats?
Yeah, so I am a Clay County native. I've been here born and raised my whole life, basically. With the Clay Dems, well, I guess I should introduce myself a little bit more. I'm 21. I work at, I guess this is okay to say, I work at UPS, the early morning shift there, so I'm usually, sleeping around this time, so bear with me. With the Young Democrats, I really started in earnest around election cycle, around, say, July, August. I'm working with the Clay County Democrats, the countywide organization, and then different things in different counties as well, campaigning for Kamala Harris, I should say. And then for the Young Dems, that was an organization that I started working on around October, November, we'll say. And then we were just officially chartered as of this Sunday. So that was a big move for us. But really what I wanted to do was, no offense to anyone working with the Clay County DEC, but it really is an old folks home. And these people, they do a lot of work, a lot of great work, but give it 10, 15 years, there's going to be an issue if there's no one to, take over.
Yep. Yeah, the other team, the red team, has the same problem, right? I attend some of those meetings. I think I told you this when I met you. Like, I am a Republican, even though I'm one of the rare breed that can actually have a conversation with people I disagree with instead of just shouting. But it's the same thing on their side of the fence, right? You go to a lot of the meetings, and the average age has got to be like in the upper 50s. I'm in my early 40s, and when I walk in a room and feel super young, it's not a young crowd, right? Like, so that's cool. So how do the young, other than obviously the age, what's the age range for the Young Dems, I guess, is my first question.
Yeah, so the age range is, for the Florida Young Dems, it is 14 to 40. We don't have any under 18s, not that we wouldn't accept them, but that's just not really what we're targeting exactly. There are other organizations that are more geared towards them, but, if there is anyone under that age, that's totally fine as well.
Yeah, it's similar. I don't know what the exact age range on the other, on the Republican side, but it's very similar. So what is, obviously we know that the Democrat Party, they did the protest, they've done some other things. What are the goals of the Young Dems? Like, what are you guys trying? Obviously, getting younger people involved, right, that are on the same train of thought as the Democrat Party. But what are your goals as far as once you get those people involved? What do you want to do with them? Like, what are the things that you want to have them involved in, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously we are an offshoot of the Democratic Party. So of course we do want to eventually elect some Democrats to public office. But apart from that, part of my philosophy is I don't want the party to just show up every 2 to 4 years asking for your vote or asking for a donation. And something that I am really trying to push, both as a president of my own committee and then a member of the DEC, is I would also like to focus on mutual aid, putting ourselves out there a little bit more in the community. So, for example, on March 29th, we're targeting a park cleanup at Ronnie Ben's aunt. So really more of like a mutual aid focused organization,
That's cool.
and just doing good in your community.
Yeah, that's neat. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit when we first met, right?
Mhm.
There are problems, there are issues going on in the communities that I think everybody recognizes regardless of political affiliation. And the question is, we're never going to agree on everything, but the question is,
Mhm.
on the things that we can work together on, like how do we get more of that, right?
Right.
And not to talk about the older folks again, but in my experience, sometimes on both sides of the political aisle, the older folks are a little more entrenched in the mindset of we're not going to talk to the other side. We're not
Mhm.
going to work with them. We're not going to deal with them. And what I've seen from younger folks, yourself, and then also the people in the young Republicans, is there's a little more of a willingness on things that aren't, real controversial issues, things like park cleanup, things like the homeless problem that we have in Clay County that nobody seems to want to talk about, even like affordable housing and some other stuff that I think both sides are sort of realizing are real issues that our community
Absolutely.
face. I've seen willingness from both sides of the aisle to come together and work on some of those things. And park cleanup is cool because Ronnie Van Zant is one of the best parks in the county. It's
Mhm.
mired in all that traffic from Sandridge Road
Right.
construction, but it's a topic for another day. So that's pretty cool. So mutual aid, you're going to actually get out in the community and do some things.
Mhm.
That's neat. I like that. What do you see as let's hear your perspective. What are some problems that you feel like there's potential for working across the aisle and mutually working on things for? Like what are some other issues at park cleanup? Where do you see other opportunities, I guess, to work with people that are maybe outside of your normal group?
Yeah. I mean, so something that I talked about, which is different from the Democratic Party or the Clay County DEC, is I am totally fine if you are an independent, even if you're a Republican and you want to come over and volunteer with us, work on whatever issues like that park cleanup. There's different things that we can do, such as one idea that we had is purchasing medical debt. You can buy that for pennies on the dollar and just cancel that. And of course, there's a good bit of fundraising that is involved in that, and we're not at that point. But that's one idea that we had. That's a big problem that, people of all ideologies, all parties deal with. And I think that is a good way to show us or show our community who we are as Democrats.
I love it. I love that. And I have seen some groups recently purchasing school lunch debt. So I'm not saying, yeah, obviously not telling you what to do, but
No,
that's an
that's
interesting thing because that's something where I think across the board people would come together uh, and say, "Oh, that's a good idea. I like that." Right? And there's no political risk there because everyone's worried about, oh, if I work with people who I disagree with, does that look like I'm endorsing, every idea they have and every position they hold, or things like that, park cleanup, medical debt, even school lunch debt, helping the homeless, things like that. There's no risk there because everybody's doing something that's helping someone, and you don't have to endorse every idea that those people have. So that's pretty neat. I like that. Just let's talk about it in general. Clay County, you're a Democrat. You're sort of in the minority in terms of the voting base in Clay County. It's predominantly Republican, and then there's independents and Democrats that are sort of neck and neck in terms of registered voters. What's that experience been like? What was your experience at that protest, I guess, in particular? How did that go? What was your thoughts on the reactions you received from people driving by? And I'd be interested to know your thoughts on it.
yeah. So that President's Day protest that you were at was actually one of the largest events that I've been to, or that the party has hosted since I've been involved, at least. So that was really just fantastic. The reactions from the public are a lot more mixed than I would have expected. We are outnumbered 3-1 here in Clay County, but there's definitely nastiness, but there isn't as much as you would expect coming from people on the road. Of course, there's people that might, throw stuff, yell, whatever, but it's been a fantastic experience the last several months that I've been doing this, just meeting people and talking to all different kinds of folks.
Yeah, I will say I went. I was there for a good chunk of it. I only had, there was someone else there, and she sort of is what she is. She had a little more mixed reaction from the people who were doing the protesting. But I've got
Yeah.
to say, there was probably 2 to 3 dozen people there. I would say. Would you say that's accurate? Like somewhere in there, like.
When I counted, it was at 85, and of course,
Okay,
people
all
are
right. So
coming and going. So
even more than I thought. I didn't do an official count. Yeah, and I will tell you, I had probably a couple dozen conversations with different people there, and there was only two that I felt like weren't really willing to sort of have a
okay.
conversation, right? Like I don't think that anybody agreed with my viewpoints, and that's okay. Like, but it was nice to see that things were less heated than I thought they were going to be going in. Even me coming in as part of like Clay News and Views, and not me just being like a Republican who's trying to aggravate. I was expecting a little bit of resistance, and for the most part, everybody was pleasant. That's pretty cool. And I will say that the reactions from the people driving by were more mixed than I thought. A lot of people with thumbs up and sort of like supporting, and then maybe an equal amount of um, people not being quite so supportive, sometimes in respectful ways, and then other times not so much. But there's always going to be knuckleheads, right? Like I think you just have to account for the fact that there's always going to be idiots. My favorite one was the guy who tried to do a burnout to like roll a bunch of
Yeah,
smoke
I
at you
remember
guys, and
that.
then he failed at the burnout, and then we
Mm.
all that we all came together as one and mocked his lame attempt at a burnout. So if that person happens to listen to this interview, I want you to know that you suck. And I'm still mocking you, and it still makes me laugh. So we got some different things like that. So, what are some general problems that you see in Clay County as a Democrat, sort of in the minority of the political sphere, that you feel like don't get enough attention or aren't addressed? What are some problems that you think the county faces from your view?
Yeah, so the first thing that comes to mind is housing. We are between bad and bad, I would say, because we have a lot of growth, a lot of building going on that's really frustrating and is really destroying the places that people grew up. And the county is just, unrecognizable, even from, compared to what I was used to growing up. But that being said, you can't stop that, right? Like you can't build a wall around Clay County as much as that might be appealing to some people. So you have to find a way to build housing. You can't just stop building, but do that in a more productive way, a way that actually makes sense and is affordable to people in the county. That's something that, you guys should be going to your county commissioners meetings if you can. Of course, they don't usually have those at a time that's good for working people.
Yeah, yeah. Don't get me started on that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree with
Yeah.
you there.
So that's one of the big ones. And then of course, same issues that affect everyone across the country. Being able to make rent, medications. We have a large elderly population as well as veterans. Like you go across any street and you'll see homeless veterans. The people that we are supposed to exalt, and what is there for them?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Another issue, we talk about housing. I've been doing some research on property taxes, and property taxes over the last 12 years have tripled, right? And that's a dirty little secret. You have people like the sheriff and a lot of the county commissioners who want to tout the line that, we're one of the lower counties in terms of taxes. And maybe that is compared to other counties in the state. But over the last, decade plus, property taxes have tripled. So when you talk about people who are already feeling the pinch of things like just the normal necessities of life, medicine, food, all those other things going up, even people who've paid their houses off, um, are feeling the pinch in just taxes that seem to increase over and over and over again. And then you couple that with the fact that a good chunk of our politicians here in Clay County, and this is a story that we're working on that's coming out in the future, don't pay a dime of property taxes. And you have people at the top making decisions that impact. Poor, it sounds like a derogatory term, but I'm poor.
That's
The
yeah.
poorest people in the county feel the biggest impact, even in the smallest increases of things like taxes, right? So it just compounds the housing issues that we're already seeing. So I agree with you on that. I guess it's a long-winded way of me saying I 100% agree that housing is a problem. I also think that growth is a problem, not because growth is bad, but because we have a structure here in the county that incentivizes companies to overprice homes, right? Like I'm driving past Middleburg High School, and there's a neighborhood going in there where the starting price is in the upper 400,000s. That area around Middleburg High, between like Middleburg High and Middleburg Elementary, is one of the lowest economic areas, especially when you get farther into Clay Hill and other areas. And we're dropping $400,000 houses.
I
Something's
have no.
wrong. Like the system is wrong. Or, there's a problem somewhere. And then you compound that. This is the last thing I'll say. I know I'm talking a lot. With the fact that anytime affordable housing in the form of apartments or anything pops up, nobody wants it near their neighborhood, right? Like, oh, we can't have those poor people near us because there's going to be more crime. We can't have it here. Floating Island doesn't want it. Oakleaf doesn't want it. Middleburg doesn't want it. Green Cove doesn't want it. So you have this crisis where the homes that are being built are crazy expensive, and nobody wants to allow more affordable housing to be built where they are, and it's just led to this thing where it's insane. It's sad that if I didn't already live in Clay County, I could not afford to move here, and that's not a phrase I ever thought that I would say as a person who's lived here since '96, right? All right, so let's talk a little bit about. Obviously, you and I have very different political views. We don't need to hash out all the differences that we have. I ask people this all the time, and mostly Republicans have been on and done interviews on the show. But it's the question I like to ask everybody. In your mind, Dylan, what does a perfect future for Clay County look like? If you could shape the future of Clay County unilaterally, what would you make that look like?
I would like to live in a county that, this is along the same lines, but I would like to be able to live in a county where I can afford to live there and I can afford to have a family there. I work. I'm not some, whatever derogatory term you want to use. Um, but I'm at the bottom quartile of income earners. And if I didn't have roommates, there'd be no way that I could live there. I'd be priced out. I would have to leave. And I also think that people should be able to, just generally live whatever kind of life that they want to live. Feel safe in their homes, feel safe going out in public, not be afraid of, I don't know, any kind of violence, hate motivated or otherwise happening to them. And then with employers, you shouldn't have to worry about being treated poorly or getting fired for something silly. You should be able to live with dignity in all aspects of your life.
Yeah, I think, and again, I've always said I think that Democrats and Republicans see a lot of the same problems. They want a lot of the same things. We just see different paths on how to get to some of those things, right? And so, all right, so cool. So the last thing I got for you, if someone wants to, first of all, someone wants to come and help with the Rodney Van Zant Park cleanup on the 29th of March, how would they sign up to participate and help out?
Yeah, so I would recommend that anyone that is like-minded, they can go to mobilize.com. That's the platform that we use to organize our volunteers. If you are not exactly in those circles, but you still want to, show up and help out with this kind of thing, which is totally fine, and I'm thrilled to have that happen. You can just reach out to me either on our Facebook page, our Instagram, which is just Clay County Young Dems, and then you can email me. One second. That one is claycountyyoungdemocrats@gmail.com.
All right, cool. And if someone wants to join the Young Democrats themselves, just in general, how would they do that? Email you? I mean, what's I guess I don't know what the process is there. So.
Sure. So we have our monthly meetings. Those are usually held at the DEC headquarters in Orange Park. But I would recommend you just reach out to me through those channels that I told you just now, and you'll find whatever information you need there.
Awesome. Well, Dylan, anything you want to tell the people of Clay County, the readers of Clay News Reviews and listeners before we wrap it up?
Yes. So this isn't really something that we touched on, but something that I want to get out to as many people as possible. Something that I talk about with the people around me in my organization. Are you interested in politics just because it's like a sport to you, or are you interested in creating the kind of world that you want to see? Those are two very, very different things, and you can either have an opinion. Well, they're not mutually exclusive, but there's a difference between having an opinion and having an impact. So join a club, join a church, do whatever, do something in your community, and that's how you can actually build something better, not just, post on Facebook or whatever else.
Yeah, I agree. Be about what you say you're about, right? Some people just show up to political things to argue, right? They just want to argue with the other side. There's a litmus test for me, as I start to talk to someone, whether they're of the same political persuasion that I am or different. I talk to them a little bit and then try to get a feel for whether or not they're emotionally intelligent enough to have a conversation. Because some folks aren't. And so yeah, I agree. Go do something. Go do something to help your fellow human being. Go do something to make the world better rather than just sit around and argue with strangers online, right? And don't get me wrong, I love to argue with strangers
I've seen
online
your
from time
Facebook.
to time. But at some point you got to go do something productive. So, Dylan, thank you. It has been a pleasure. I appreciate, again, you making time to talk to me. And, Dylan told you, hit him up on the Clay County Young Dems Facebook page. Send him an email if you're interested. I would encourage everybody to do more of what Dylan says that he's going to do with his group. Go clean up parks, go help people, go do some good in the world. That will wrap this one up. And, thanks again, Dylan.